Oh, thank you so much. This would be the funny intro. Sponsored by Can-Am.
It's pretty sweet. It's modded out or something.
All right, everyone, hello. I have got Ethan here with e.adamsmedia on Instagram. I took a peek at some of his like speed ramping car reels, and I was just blown away with what he was able to do in Adobe and After Effects, and I wanted to pick his brain on his RS3 setup, because I've got my RS3 Mini, and I wanted to kind of compare and contrast our setups as well as go over a few mistakes that I think that beginners can make when they get into gimbal setups, and I wanted to kind of pick his brain on how he sets it up and kind of the why behind it.
So normally I usually have a vertical mount on here, and that's something you can buy from the DJI website. I definitely recommend that if you're doing any reels, it's not worth it to put this thing in portrait mode and try and film like this the entire time.
Flashlight mode.
Yeah, it's like flashlight mode. So basically you have to hold the gimbal like this, and if you want to put it low and you tilt it up, it's gonna point the camera clear up high. So it's just not worth it. Go ahead, grab yourself a vertical mount. I mean, they're a little bit expensive, but it's definitely worth it.
So why did you choose the briefcase handle compared to, because I see you got the dual NATO mount. Why don't you have the dual handles?
So I actually really went back and forth on this. And at the time it simply was budget. I was a broke college student.
I'm broke as shit.
And I was like, do I want, you know, the dual handles or do I want the briefcase handle? But I think I would honestly use this a whole lot more than the dual handles. And for one specific reason, it's kind of awkward holding the gimbal like this. If you're ever getting a low shot, it's just kind of awkward. So I definitely recommend grabbing the briefcase handle. Makes things a whole lot easier and simpler, and you're able to flex around a lot more. Because one of the things about gimbal shooting, a lot of it has to come down with how you walk and how you point the camera and how you stabilize yourself. You can't just rely all on the gimbal. And when you're down like this, you're not able to stabilize too well. Whereas if you're like this, you're a lot more structured and can get a better grip and stabilize yourself a lot better.
So to kind of add on to that too, I saw a YouTuber that was using like the dual handlebar, and then I looked it up on Amazon and I was like, that's the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen. The only gripe that I have with them is like with both of ours, the interface is right here on the touchscreen. So if you're holding, you know, the gimbal out here and then out here, you can't touch like the settings before you go into each shoot. So you'd have to be like pretty dead set on what settings you want to shoot with, what, you know, PTF mode, pan follow, whatever it is, and then pick up your gimbal. Because if not, you're gonna have to put it down, reach into your settings, bring it back up, instead of having to just adjust it with your thumb while you're already holding it. So that's my biggest gripe with the dual handles.
And then as well as I have on the side here, I have like a cold shoe mount. And this thing's pretty sweet. You can mount a lot of different things. Every now and again I'll mount a mic on it if I'm filming for audio, which I usually am not. But I also have the Raven Eye setup. So I currently have it on our main camera right now, so we could adjust the framing. But we'll get some B-roll of that and show you guys what that looks like and what it does. But it basically acts as a wireless monitor, and that way I'm able to put my phone on and I'm able to see what I'm doing while I'm getting those low and awkward shots, because framing is pretty easy to mess up on a gimbal, and that's one of the biggest things I notice with beginners and gimbal work.
So one thing I wanted to kind of touch base about too is weight with the different configurations. This thing weighs like, it's under 1,000 grams. I'll go ahead and put it in the video here on how much this thing actually weighs. But if I go out to like a client shoot, I did some escape rooms the other day, and I hold this thing for like 5 hours continually. This is the RS3 Mini, and it's still hard to hold. I don't know how he does this with cars all the time. Like, it broke my back, and I just have like a little vlog camera basically. So I wanted to get your opinion on like what is too much weight and how intentional you are on like the accessories that you put on there and making sure that you're being mindful of weight, or if you even care about that.
I've honestly never been a huge weight guy, but I totally understand. I don't want to put anything too heavy on it. I believe
Call me a girl.
Well, no, I'm not. But basically, especially at like car events, car shoots, you do have time to relax. But that is one thing. If you're a bit like, if you're not used to holding a gimbal and you're not like used to that shoulder strain, it's a workout. It's a workout. It's definitely taken me a lot of time. I remember I did rollers and we just drove up this hill and drove down. It was like 40 minutes. And I kid you not, I was so exhausted.
I have a question. How much were you using the briefcase handle for your rollers? Was that?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah,
all the
try
time.
and do that with the dual handle. I dare you.
Yeah, the thing about rollers is the biggest thing I hate to see is eye level rollers. I think those are the most boring uncinematic shots ever.
We see this constantly, guys.
Yeah.
Get creative.
Yeah, no, that's how we see the world all the time, is eye level. So it's always really nice to get creative, get down low.
He needs some milk.
Maybe even super high. I don't do that too often, but
I've done that.
But it is creative. It is creative. And you know who has a really good setup is, I believe his name is Hunter Clark. You can follow him on Instagram. But he has his monitor set up on the end of the briefcase handle.
That's what I'm about to do, yeah.
So he has a very symmetrical setup, and if you look, he has very smooth footage. He's a very, very good cinematographer, videographer. So go check him out.
So I think another cool thing about what you just said is that's where I'm planning. So I'm about to get the Portkeys PT5 Mark II monitor. And the thing that I've got to keep in mind too, and if you're going to get into a gimbal setup, is when you're going vertical footage like he does constantly, you're going to want a monitor because you can't see a damn thing. When you're down low like this, doing vertical, even with a flip out screen, it's incredibly hard. So I would get some sort of monitor with a cage that allows you to film both horizontally and then flip the monitor itself to vertical so that you can use the monitor both doing horizontal and vertical. So
I totally agree with that. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to, is getting a monitor, because as cool as my phone is having right there, I kind of don't like having it. It's honestly not the most secure mount, and having it outside of a car is just kind of sketchy to me.
Oh, I'm also like, I never treat my phone battery responsibly, so it's almost always dead.
No, let me tell you, these night car shoots, man, it'll be, you know, been up since 8 a.m. using my phone, and then the car meets at like 8 p.m. and it's like, whoa, my phone's at 30%.
You're like duct taping a portable charger to your handle.
Yeah. I've considered it, I really have.
So this isn't necessarily like a gimbal mistake, but also if you're someone that's about to invest into a gimbal, I'd really ask yourself what you're primarily going to be shooting, because you can also do like a metal cage around your camera with a simple handheld rig with no stabilization at all. With going into a gimbal, you've got to know going into this, you've got to show up to your shoot probably 10 minutes early just to balance this freaking thing. Like, it takes a minute, especially if you're swapping out lenses and mics constantly and it messes with like the weight on your camera. You've just got to keep in mind that
and
you have to balance this constantly.
You're new with it too, if you're new with it. I remember it used to take me like 30 minutes to set up my gimbal.
How long does it take you now?
Honestly, a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Really is all it takes. I kind of have a life hack that's going to be frowned upon, but what I like to do is I like to, you know, I swapped out between my Ronin and I swapped out between my Raven Eye and my mic today, and all I did was I turned it on, put the mic on, and then it'll show you on the monitor what's unbalanced.
I'm so glad you said that, because I do that too.
And I'll just tweak it just ever so slightly so that it's good. And then I hit recalibrate. That is one big thing. Make sure you always calibrate your gimbal before your shoots.
True.
There's been times where I forget to, and you're doing your
Dude, I did that, and I didn't want to tell anyone that I did that. So I'm so glad that you do that.
No, I do that too. I wonder how many other people do that, but that's how I said.
Comments.
Initially, you do want, if your first setup, I would recommend doing the whole thing where it should point up and face forward, or whatever the setup is.
You should know the fundamentals, but then like you do it over and over again and you learn little ways to get more efficient with it, and I think that's it.
One modification I also think you should plan on making, and I plan on making, is a ring grip. So basically it's a ring that goes around your Ronin or your gimbal.
I've seen those, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Yes. So it's an entire ring. One person I know who does it really well is Shokon Visuals. We'll drop them in the link or the description. I'm not a YouTuber, I don't know. But he uses a ring grip, and you are actually able on the top of the ring to put like a briefcase-like handle on it, so you can get those lower shots.
Those are the same dudes that have like the backpack, like weird hook thing with like the string that comes down to hold the.
Oh,
have you
no.
seen those?
No, those are sick, but no, it's not what it is. I think you can like rig it up so you can do the same thing, but I'm not going to invest in the $2,000 back
They are
plate.
great for holding the ring things you were just talking about. They're great for holding monitors as well.
Yes,
so.
Yes, you can put so much stuff on them, and you can even put, see how there's a little control panel? You can also, if you buy the advanced version, it's like another $1,000. So basically a whole nother gimbal. You can put it to the side and you can control your gimbal settings from there. So probably the biggest mistake though, that I see, and it's a lot of these new kids that are, I want to get a camera and a gimbal and do these cool car videos. It's what it sounds like to me. They throw their camera on their gimbal, they kind of get it stabilized, and then they just try to make the gimbal do all the work. Please make sure you have a basic understanding of cinematography, composition.
I have so much to add.
And you know what I'm saying? So
this is not the answer.
This is not the answer to better videos. If you want better video,
fix, yeah.
There's thousands of creators out there that have never touched a gimbal or barely even used them and produce amazing content. So work on your basic things, lighting, composition, audio. This is not gonna fix all your problems.
Yeah,
it's no Band-Aid.
Pardon my French, if your content is shitty, this won't make it any less shitty. You need to know how to use it. I think people like think that the moment that they get a gimbal, their content is immediately going to skyrocket. It's super not the case. In fact, for me, the first like 2 weeks of having this, I was like, how the hell does this even, like, I had the Osmo 5 mobile and I was filming on my iPhone. So I was used to like, I turned it on, I like balanced itself and got my iPhone into position. And I got this and I was like, there's like 3 different axes here. What the heck do I do here? And so clients watched me be clueless for the first week as I tried to balance this, and I balanced it so hilariously wrong. The motors were screaming at me the whole time.
That's always the worst sound, right?
It's like vibrating.
Yeah,
like, you did it wrong, you did it wrong, you did it wrong.
Yeah, here's an example. Yeah, just understand this is not gonna fix your content. It's not gonna, it might make you a little bit better with some shots that are moving, but just understand it's not gonna fix all your problems and that you need to work on the basics first.
A little bit of a tip too is, this is a 3-axis gimbal. Well, actually they both are.
Yeah.
You can actually go into whatever post-editing software you use. He uses Premiere Pro, I use DaVinci Resolve. I oftentimes will enable stabilization. And you can go through different like algorithms to make it, you know, be stabilized the best, because they're all a little bit different. But you can even further stabilize it from what the gimbal can do, because unless you have like the DJI 4-dimensional gimbal that has like the crazy turkey neck looking thing.
Yeah, that thing's crazy.
Which no one can afford. Then just know that like your Z axis, which is up and down, that's completely on you. So there's that.
So yeah, no, I've seen a bunch of, in my videos, there's been a couple shots that are almost there, but I have a little bit of bob and it makes it look so bad whenever I try a speed ramp and I have to cut it out.
That's the thing too. If you're a speed ramping person, your movements get exaggerated to all hell. Like it's way more noticeable when it's played at 6,000%.
Well, I think that's all we're gonna cover today, but if you have any more questions, drop them down in the comments. Make sure to leave a like too. I'll leave the rest to you because I'm not a YouTuber. You have this down, right?
No, that's fine. Yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Appreciate you guys watching, and please consider subscribing.